I'm Darren Potke, Executive Director of USTA Georgia. I don't have to tell you that the last 12 months have been a very challenging year for all of us. However, so many people have stepped up and reached out to make great things happen in their communities across the state. Here at USTA Georgia, we have created some 2020 COVID-19 Service Awards to celebrate all of the positive things that have happened this past year. And trust me, there has been a lot. Congratulations to all of our nominees and category winners, and a sincere thank you for all you continue to do to promote and develop the growth of tennis, not just in your community, but all across our great state. One of our categories was the Serving Aces for the Community business category, and this recognized a business in Georgia that had gone above and beyond to serve their community during the pandemic. And I'm pleased to announce the winner is Dan Kester of I Play Tennis in Atlanta. Dan has done a tremendous job, not just promoting tennis within his store, but with community outreach for the Atlanta Youth Tennis and Education Foundation, amongst other organizations. Recently, I sat down with Dan to discuss his passion for the sport and some retail tips. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Well, welcome folks to the USTA Georgia 2020 special COVID-19 Service Awards that we're privileged to present to local community folks. And I'm very happy today to be joined by the winner of the Serving Aces for the Community business category, Dan Kester of I Play Tennis. Dan, how you doing?
Oh, pretty good, thanks. Just trying to get it all done.
Yeah, and you're joining us right in the heart of the battle, right from the store. I could see some beautiful rackets behind you. So it looks like some shoes. You got a security camera. It looks like that's good. So, but in all seriousness, USTA Georgia, last year and obviously this year to a point as well, with the pandemic, it's been a very difficult time, and it was somewhat difficult to get tennis back going again. And Dan, you were instrumental in doing that. We really appreciate that. Specifically, a couple ways. Let's talk about your role with the changes at City of Atlanta and how you helped UST Atlanta connect captains, make sure everybody had a place to play during all the instability of actually the facilities even being able to host matches. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I over the course of the year, between all the different leagues that I'm involved with, I captain about 20 teams, and so I understand the intricacies of putting together practices and schedules and rosters and communication. And with the COVID guidelines that the city is currently under, there's a lot of restrictions still remaining at the tennis centers. And during that same time, the city has decided to take over the management of the City of Atlanta facilities on their own versus using a third party. So they did so without a true plan in place. And so everything has been kind of running as a reactionary business versus a proactive business. And so what I've been trying to do is to get the Parks and Recreation Department to think about what needs to be done before it becomes have to be done. And that includes getting teams registered at the City of Atlanta facilities. And so in the past, if you had a spot there, you just always had a spot there, and they would take on more and more teams. But with the current restrictions and the current guidelines that the city has, they are limiting the number of teams that are playing there. And because they didn't have a database to start the process, I became that database for the City of Atlanta facilities. And so I started hooking up all of the captains with the appropriate people at the City of Atlanta to allow them to get the space reserved for their matches. And that includes all the different leagues that people could potentially play at in Atlanta.
Well, Dan, that's incredible. I heard you're very good at Microsoft Excel, and obviously you got put to the test this year, right? Listen, let's call a spade a spade. It's been an interesting year with the City of Atlanta with tennis facilities.
Absolutely.
We'll leave it at that. We won't say much else about that. But that being said, just a tremendous job of being proactive and really helping. And I know all the teams, not just the 5,000 teams that you're captaining this year. From what I'm hearing, you got a lot of teams. But I know all the teams and all the captains very much appreciate that. So a tip of the cap to you, my friend. Another thing that you've done, that you did last year and continue to do, that is really amazing, is you have a great relationship, and you obviously got the shirt on today, with the Atlanta Youth Tennis and Education Foundation, which is really one of the gold standards of NJTLs, not just in Georgia, but throughout the South and the country. And you started a racket drive to help them raise some money and be able to provide some instruction and some different ways of interacting with their students during the pandemic. Where did you get the idea for that, and how were you able to execute that?
Well, I have been working with ATEF since about 2006. That first year, I tried to kind of enhance the tennis experience, with May being National Tennis Month. And I was able to offer anybody who purchased a new racket, if they were willing to trade in a used racket, I would give them $25 off the purchase price of a racket. And then I collected all of those rackets and I cleaned them up and I donated them to ATEF. And that became some of the first adult rackets that they were using in part of their programming. And that first year, it was about 20 to 30 rackets. And since then, it has grown. Last year, we sold over 400 rackets. And so what we did this past year is, because of the pandemic, the city of Atlanta closed all of the tennis centers down in March. And ATEF had a collection of rackets that were in their storage closets that they could no longer use because they could not use the tennis centers. And so they collected all of those up. Many of them were rackets that I had donated throughout the years that were still in the storage closets, and brought them all to the store. So that became the first basis of what we did last year. Clean them up, I restring them, I regrip them, whatever's necessary. And then we sell those rackets for $25, and that $25 goes directly back to ATEF for their programming. So last year we had that. We had students who were doing service projects, and they collected rackets at some of the big tennis centers. We had some events where people brought and donated rackets to the event. And so all of those combined are what we went through here. The good thing is that the people that were purchasing those were typically new tennis players. They were at home during the pandemic, or they were working from home, or they were laid off, or they had some free time on their hands and they wanted to be able to do something that was safe. And tennis is one of the safest things that you can do during the pandemic. And so they just weren't quite sure they were ready to spend $200 on a racket. So a $25 used racket became very desirable. And so not only did we collect money for ATEF, but we had the ability to get new players some equipment at a low cost. And hopefully, as new players, they'll fall in love with it and they'll start to join the leagues and they'll start playing more tennis. And as they say, it's a sport for life. So get them started now and they'll keep playing.
Sure. Well, that's the lifeblood of our sport, right? Of new players coming in and having a good experience. And part of that's having good equipment. So really appreciate your dedication with that. You also, I believe, did a book drive, right, for ATEF last year? Or
well, I do it year round, and
year round.
When ATEF had their programming out of Washington Park here in the city of Atlanta, we started a library there for the after-school program. And what I did was I gave customers $1 off of their purchase for every children's book that they donated for that library. And so I have been doing that for over 10 years. Now, we didn't collect a lot of books last year because there was no library. But as soon as we have a home for programming again, I'll start that back up again.
Yeah, well, that's incredible. Like I said, ATEF, what a great organization, right? I mean, Tori Hawkins, Debbie Kennedy, and Eric Schmuck, who happens to be our EVP on USTA Georgia, is the president of ATEF. And he wrote me into being the nominating committee chair last year. So hopefully this board is doing a good job. They better, because I put them on, or I helped put them on there. So they better be doing a good job. So
well, ATEF,
well done. Hey,
ATEF is the nonprofit arm for USTA Atlanta, and our goal is to promote enrichment and achievement through tennis and education. And primarily it will be in underserved communities, but right now we are spreading out all over Metro Atlanta, trying to get more and more people playing tennis.
Yeah, no, it's they did a tremendous job. As we have a lot of great organizations, not just in Atlanta, but all over Georgia that do the same thing. But ATEF does a tremendous job. So, hey, let's talk about I Play Tennis, your store. What got you the idea to kind of be involved in this and get this thing going? And you know, you're a retail guy, and you know, tennis retail is a great business to be in, but it's probably the margins are a little tough, probably, especially with some of the competition. Can you talk about what inspired you to get into this line of work?
Well, my whole background, my business background, has been in retail. And prior to opening this store, I was a divisional vice president for Riches, which was the department store that was based here in Atlanta. And back in 2005, they were going through the process of combining all of the nameplates across the country into one nameplate, Macy's. And so it has since become Macy's. At that time, they were starting to make the plans to move everybody to New York or to San Francisco. And I just didn't have a desire to go into New York or San Francisco. And so I left and I opened up I Play Tennis. So I consider this my retirement. I get to go play tennis when I want to go play tennis. I get to talk tennis or watch tennis all day long. So it's definitely a passion of mine. I selected this particular location because we are in between two City of Atlanta tennis facilities, and there was no major tennis store inside the perimeter. The bulk of the tennis is north of Atlanta, and so I served a very large community inside the perimeter here in Atlanta by opening up the tennis store. So I opened it up, opened the doors February 2006, and I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, and can we remind the folks where they can find you specifically?
I Play Tennis is in Ansley Mall. It's at the intersection of Piedmont and Monroe in Midtown Atlanta near Piedmont Park. So we get a lot of players from Piedmont Park and from Bitsy Grant, and then from south of the city. So we are the furthest tennis store south in Metro Atlanta.
And a website if people want to go to iplayatlanta.com. Am I right?
Correct. It's got all iplayatlanta.com. It's got all of our specials. We have most of the items that we sell here in the store up on the website. It's very difficult to compete with major online retailers who have hundreds of people doing work when you are a staff of 3 trying to do it all. So I don't plan on generating lots of volume online, but it's there for people for information. You know, the store information, the assortment information. And then they can come visit or call if they need any specific answers.
Well, you'll find this interesting. As fate would have it, the 1 year I lived in San Luis Obispo, California, was the year the Tennis Warehouse opened.
Oh.
So, and you know, major, they do a great job, just like you do as well.
They all have a purpose. I mean, you just think about all the places all over the country that they may have tennis, but they don't have any kind of tennis retail. So it certainly gives those communities the opportunity to continue playing the sport that they love.
Right. Well, and Dan, you've done a tremendous job all the years of giving people opportunity to play the sport that you love, I love, everybody loves, and that's the great sport of tennis. And so we really want to appreciate you joining us this morning. Congratulations on this recognition.
Thank you very much.
Okay, folks, that's Dan Kester of I Play Tennis. Go visit him at Ansley Mall or iplayatlanta.com. Our 2020 USTA Georgia COVID-19 Service Award winner for the Serving Aces for the Community Business category. As you heard this morning, you can understand why Dan won this award. Did a tremendous job, and we salute him. I'll look for our next one shortly. Thanks for watching.